For the second time in 3 seasons, there's no baseball going on when there should be baseball going on. And both times it's happened right after the 49ers broke our hearts. Does that mean Kyle Shanahan is responsible for MLB stoppages? Anyway, as there obviously isn't any on-field play we can point out the positives in, there's one thing we can talk about that's good. The longer this goes on, the longer Sean Manaea and Matt Olson will remain on the roster. So as far as I'm concerned, this lockout can go on forever. In the meantime, we can watch classic Oakland A's commercials and the highlights of the A's last 20 years of postseason appearances. Or not. I am optimistic this lockout will come to an end, and I have some tips for owners and players to agree on to make that come around faster. The owners have talked about wanting to expand the playoffs. I say that's fine as long as it lasts until Thanksgiving and the teams actually compete over the Geller Cup. And I think it probably would be good if the Twins just automatically get the AL pennant so that MLB can watch baseball being played in Minneapolis in late November so that they can decide if this actually was a good idea. And then despite the expansion, as always, the Mariners are not allowed in the playoffs. Then there's the talk about competitive integrity, making sure that each team is actually spending enough to make something happen. I think that should probably happen, and I'm sure this has something to do with being an A's fan. If the owners want to save money, they can always try to generate wind power from the wave to find out if the wave is actually good for anything. And anytime a team's owner decides to sell off the entire current set of players, they have to get the approval of a tribunal of slightly inebriated bleacher regulars who recently bought a bunch of new player jerseys. And the Angels keep having underwhelming seasons despite their ridiculous payroll, so I think just for now we can allow them to have PEDs, performance-enhancing deities, in the outfield. A universal designated hitter I guess they've already agreed on, but in order to make that be as good as it needs to be, that universal DH needs to be Bartolo Colon. And although fan engagement is not something they're really going to be coming to an agreement on to get baseball going again, I think they need to have that discussion, so I have a few tips for them. They like to think that pace of play has something to do with why fans are tuning out, but I don't think that's really one of the main reasons. I think one of the main reasons is there are not enough relief pitchers who are 12-year-olds who broke their arms and ended up being in a closer position. We need more Henry Roan-Gartners. And any attendees who complain about how boring baseball is should have to listen to a 2-hour PowerPoint on why that is not actually true. The pitchers who take the longest to deliver a pitch need to adopt a dramatic soap opera pause in the process, or they're just wasting everyone's time. And the COVID-19 policy that doubleheaders should be 7-inning games, which makes sense because of all the game cancellations, should never come back again. Because turning what could be 6 hours of baseball into 4.5 hours of baseball is cruel and unusual punishment for spectators who only get 162 games of baseball each year as it is. So if the owners and players want to take some of those suggestions into consideration, and also if they could agree that, the A's can't get rid of Sean Manaea ever, and he's going to play there till he's like 57 years old, that's totally fine with me. So, in the meantime, let's watch those last 20 years of postseason appearances.